the sick kid and the Good evening. Welcome to the April Van Alstyne City Council meeting. Thank you all for being here. If y'all will rise as you're able and join us in the pledges and the invocation. I will attempt the invocation. Father God, we ask your presence here tonight with us as we discuss the business of the city. We are thankful that you us in this community. Lord, we ask your blessing of healing on Libby Carson as she treatment and tests and surgeries. We ask that you strengthen her spirit and bold enough to ask for help as she go. Lord, we're thankful for Angelica and her 30 city council member and many more years as a citizen and library board member. Ask your blessing on her and her family. I ask these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you all. One of the favorite parts of the job is recognizing outstanding performance. Tonight on item 3, the Van Alstyne Library has received the Oliver Dewey Award Grant, and I have a statement about that. Supporting charitable, educational, and community initiatives benefiting residents of Mays County, Oklahoma, and Grayson County, Texas. The foundation reflects the legacy of Oliver Dewey, Jock Mayer, a rancher, businessman, and entrepreneur devoted to the communities he called home. His legacy continues through a foundation dedicated to strengthening local communities. In 2025, the library welcomed more than 22,000 visitors, with children's programming seeing over 6,600 attendees. Funds will support critical improvements to the children's wing, including new shelving components, colorful end panels, displays, and furniture. With the foundation's partnership, we can ensure our renovation delivers not merely a functional update, but a space designed to serve the next generation of Grayson County families, laying a foundation for learning, imagination, and opportunity for the thousands of children who will pass through our doors in the years ahead. So I will make comment that these things are not given without considerable effort. It's highly competitive, so I want to congratulate Judy and her staff on doing all the work necessary to apply for the grant and be awarded same. And I know she will put that money to great use over at the library as we continue to grow that very valuable part of our community. Congratulations, Judy. I understand Mike wants a picture. Okay. All I have is this piece of paper to give you.
She just wants the check.
Slide out behind you.
Got it?
Yep.
Come right here. Right, yeah.
Thank you. Item 4, public testimony. Has anyone filled out a card for a public testimony? I have received none. Susan has received none. Seeing none, I will declare the public testimony portion of the meeting to be completed. Item 5 is public hearings. A public comment form is not necessary to comment when speaking on a public hearing item. we're going to hold a public hearing and consider adopting an ordinance regarding the imposition of roadway impact fees, including a service unit maximum of $3,997. Alex?
All right. Thank you and good evening, Mayor and Council. Excited to be here with you guys after a lengthy process that had some changes to state law midway that caused us to get here a little bit later than we hoped, but we are here now to talk about this in a public hearing tonight. So just real quick, wanted to say a word of thanks. I know we have some folks in the audience from the recently formed Capital Improvements Advisory Committee that put in some hard work and effort over the last many months since last summer to help us get to this point. So the recommendations you're going to see before you is part of workings with them and what they've sent over to you guys to consider tonight, along with the public hearing and the ordinance in a little bit here. Just a recap from the last time we were at this body back in January 13th council meeting. We adopted some stuff that's foundational to help us calculate a maximum assessable roadway impact fee. Those two things are land use assumptions, which assumes about just over 300 single-family and multifamily units per year in Van Alstyne for the next 10 years, or just over 3,000 total. We're looking at 10 years of growth here from 2026 to 2035, and then about 100,000 square feet of commercial per year is kind of what it came out to. And we worked through that with you guys last time. We also have a capital improvements plan, not to be confused with the general city capital improvements plan, but a specific roadway impact fee plan. You have this for your water and wastewater impact fees as well, but it's the basis to tell us what projects could be funded and paid for with any kind of collections or by development being built. So this map will be used, if these are adopted, as eligible projects for expenditures from impact fees. What's in there? There's 35 roadway projects and 17 intersection projects. A lot of this came out of a study that we actually did for the city a few years ago, looking at priority projects throughout the city. They do include some projects that are either being built or already built but have debt service that you can use the collections to pay for as well. So just want to highlight that. The total cost is just over $134 million in terms of the total project costs. So we have that from the last meeting. Now getting into what can you legally charge. That was my job to get that to you guys and do a report that you have in the backup tonight and calculate that for you, doing lots of fancy engineering math. So kind of keeping that really simple. I've got some more detail in the next few slides. What is the maximum assessable fee represent? In water and wastewater, that's commonly referred to as an LUE, land use equivalent. One LUE is one house. That's kind of the general thinking for that. And so how do you get that? You look at what costs are recoverable or attributable to the growth over the next 10 years and divide that by how much growth you're going to get. And that gives you a cost per unit of growth. In that case, LUEs for water, wastewater. For us, it's a little bit different in roadways because we don't have these nice pipes that contain all the systems and keep things flowing nicely. Roads are a little more complicated. So it's a combination of how much traffic developments generate and how far they go. And I'll get into that a little bit later. We do a lot of stuff to cut that top number down that we're required to do by law, which is we can't charge for people that are using your roads today. We can't charge for excess capacity that's built that's not used up by the people coming in the next 10 years. And then we're required to do some financial calculations on how much property tax that growth is going to generate and credit that back and take those dollars out. So there's a lot of cuts to that first number. And then we also look at the cost of financing that debt, which is allowable, and we know interest rates are high right now, but the net cost of interest that it costs to build the roads. Big fancy chart, not going to go into all the details. Really what I want to hit on here too is, I mentioned those two numbers, the top and the bottom. Really what this comes down to is that number 19 on the bottom right. Out of that $134 million I mentioned earlier, about $90 million is recoverable. That's what that comes out to. That is attributable to that future growth. And then the amount of units of growth that we're expecting is 22,579 vehicle miles. So when you divide one by the other, that's where we get that just shy of 4,000, the 3,997 number, which is the maximum assessable fee per vehicle mile. So let's talk about how you apply that. Let's get into the weeds of what is a vehicle mile. So different development types. I've had some kind of simple icons here to kind of help with that. A house, an apartment, and an industrial building with 1,000 square feet as the unit for that. They all generate different amounts of traffic demand. For a house, it's about one car per house in the afternoon peak hour. For an apartment, it's a lot less. That's just how it is. There's fewer, less vehicle ownership, less trips, more carpooling, things like that. What you'll notice, though, is that it's two pieces to this. It's the amount of traffic generated and how far they go. And that's not even between them. These are pretty close in this case, and I put a little asterisk on here because the state law says we cannot charge or we cannot calculate or make a service area bigger than 6 miles in length, so we're capped at a 6 mile trip length. And then I've seen lots of folks that are coming all the way through the city from the county and elsewise, so the trip lengths are a little bit longer here based on kind of the more rural character of a lot of the area compared to some more urban areas. But at the end of the day, we get a big chart that's in the ordinance, but also in the report that tells you for over 60 different types of land uses, what's that conversion factor. And so that's what we use to calculate the maximum fee and then also the collection rate, which I'll talk about in a minute, how that's a little bit different. So you guys, effectively, when I give you my report, where we're at right now, is I've done the math to say, here's what you could charge for any kind of development based on your needs, which is growth and that. And then as council, you get the decision to say how much, we can go up to that number, but what should we charge, what makes sense in this area? And we had a lot of discussion and good, healthy debate with the Capital Improvements Advisory Committee about what that should be. So I'm going to talk about that now, and then we can get into lots of question and answer time. So I mentioned collection rate. So the only limitation on this in the state law is that you cannot charge more than that maximum. That's what we've calculated to be the $39.97 number. I've got some examples in here, and I also went through these with the committee of nearby communities, what they actually charge, not their maximums, but what they actually charge for you guys as kind of some market rate analysis. How competitive is it out there? What are other developments seeing when they have to pay roadway impact fees? My recommendation as the consultant, make it as simple as possible when you start. These programs evolve over time. As you grow in size, you might have to do different things, or as people come in, if it's in effect, you learn as you go how effective it is and maybe tweaks that you want to make, and that's y'all's purview to change that program. And so we generally recommend start simple and then adjust from there. This pie chart's really helpful. I think I showed it a while back, but I want to kind of reiterate this. So I mentioned the 90 or so million that's recoverable. So kind of the yellow and then the blue that's above the dash line there. That's what's recoverable from this program, which is about 2/3 of the cost. About 1/3 of it is either beyond this 10 years of growth, or it's to pay for existing demand or those property taxes coming in. So in the ordinance, and what the committee recommended was to cut it down the middle and just say 50% charge. We can talk about that more. But I want to be clear about what 50% represents, and that's kind of why I have this bold statement in the key message, is that this program will not pay for all your needs. Your full needs is that whole pie. That's what we're saying is actually needed. And so even if you charge half of what you can, it's really only about 1/3 of your total need, if you were to collect all those dollars or get that infrastructure built. That's the other thing I like to say about these programs too, and hopefully you've experienced this some with your water and wastewater systems, is great programs get the infrastructure in the ground. It's not all about collecting the dollars, you want to get the infrastructure built. So if development comes in and builds it instead of paying a fee, that's just as good. So you might not see these receipts, is what I'm saying. That total number, don't get fixated on that. It's the value of the land, the improvements, and the collections together that you're looking at there for that number. So now for some comparisons here. I don't know why the commercial ones are bigger numbers. Sorry about that on the formatting. We looked at a couple communities around you guys that have either had impact fees for a while or recently. So we looked at Prosper, McKinney, Anna, and Salina, and they're kind of all over the map. I have a bar chart here in a second that makes it easier to see how these compare for houses. But going with 50% of the maximum, you're basically a little bit above Prosper and Anna on those, but you're below Salina. And then cumulatively, I'll show you in a minute, you're actually below Prosper for all 3 impact fees combined. So when you think about the development overall impact for water, wastewater, and roadway, with this recommendation, you fall kind of right in the middle. And that's kind of where we kind of landed talking with that group across the board there. These other policies, I got some notes below. Some of them are more complicated and kind of harder to interpret for someone coming in the front door. So Anna, for example, they have a chart that has a different percentage of the maximum for like 12 different types of land uses. So they've really varied the amount they're charging based on the development type, which is why when you look across the board, how do y'all fall compared to them? It might be up or down comparatively. McKinney, on the other hand, has a lot of service areas. They have over 10 of them because they're so large, and they had to split it up into 6 mile areas. In some places, they wanted to charge $0 just just for city policy reasons to try to minimize the cost for development and attract economic impact and economic investment. Prosper and Salina, I would say, are probably closer to where y'all are at in terms of kind of that rapid growth cycle where you're just trying to catch up. And so you'll see that those fees are probably more in line with what we have here. But each community is different is the point here. They're not all the same. Everyone kind of does it differently. But showing you guys kind of, hey, if I'm a prospective developer and I'm looking to develop in Van Alstyne or somewhere nearby, this is kind of the market rates for those things right now. I mentioned I would show it in kind of a simpler comparison. I think I like this one better. It's less numbers. But this is the cumulative development impact fees. The water's in the light blue, wastewater in dark blue, and then the yellow is the roadway impact fees. And so what you'll see is cumulatively, if you were to adopt this, that would put you just over 20 total for all three. McKinney's really low. Part of that is, you know, they've had a lot longer time to build out. They may just have less need or less cost to deliver infrastructure because they have so much in the ground already. In fact, I bet you they would say that their maintenance costs are really becoming a bigger burden over time as they have a lot more of that to deal with. Anna would be a little below you guys. They'd be sitting around the 16,000, 17,000 mark, and then Salina is much higher. And they also did their impact fees update in August of 2025. That is one thing I would note about Anna is that their numbers are getting a little bit dated. They did their study in 2022 when costs were a little bit lower. So I wouldn't be surprised if they go through an update here in a year or two and they're in the same ballpark as you guys. So some of this has to do with how often you do this. And by law, you have to look at this every 5 years anyways as a maximum. So these don't stay stale, they do change with time. All right, I'm almost done, I promise, then we can go to questions. So the effective date on this, again, the only limitation on state law is to require that previously platted properties, so properties that have final platted before today, if you were to adopt today, that they would get 12 months to go pull building permits. What we found, again, is clean, simple, and effective is instead of having to track plat status on every building permit that comes in, just exempt all properties, regardless of plat status for a year. That's a pretty common way to go with this, and it still gives you your 12-month requirement. That's just something other communities have done, has been effective. Some communities have gone longer than 12 months or gone with a phased-in approach where they slowly increase the rates, just to kind of give you an idea of what some other communities have done. But this is generally seen as a clean and easy to understand. Hey, there is a date when you don't pay for impact fees, and then there's a date when you do, and it doesn't matter where you're at. Everybody's going to have to pay at that point. So the CIAC, their recommendation was to adopt the study. That's the one attached to establish that maximum. It's kind of your backup for here's what we would legally be allowed to charge. They wanted to go with 50% of the maximum fee for all land uses in the city. And then to set the effective date as today, which would mean you would have a grace period for all building permits for all properties until this date next year on April 14th, 2027. With that, I will stop because I know we have a public hearing going and offer for questions.
All right, thanks, Jake. Appreciate that explanation. This is the time for public comment or questions. Anyone from the public seek recognition to make comment? Second call for comments or questions from the public. Third and final call. Yes, Jim.
I just want to kind of piggyback on something you said during the CIAC meetings. And one of the reasons why, just to clarify why we came up with what we came up with. And I don't know if that's appropriate for me to do that right now.
It is.
Okay, so one of the things, and there's two things that you may have questions on, the implementation being a year and why we would want to just blanket that. My thinking, and I can only speak for myself, is that if you go into who's pulling plats, who's pulling permits and everything else, it gets complicated and convoluted for staff, one thing. And number two, it gives developers an opportunity to say, let's get some stuff going and get some stuff on the ground before they have to hit those impact fees, which would stimulate some growth, in a high interest rate period. That's my thinking. The other reason why we didn't come up with, in my thinking, a lot of different multi-levels and cap it at $39.97 is because we want to have the council have the leeway to say, we want to stimulate this area or this type of development, and we can go down to offer that to developers to do that if you wanted to. But we don't want to say, okay, let's make this and this and this and this and make it harder for developers and everybody to understand. Because you can go down, you can't go up, right?
Jake, I think that was a question,
Okay.
yes.
All right.
Yep, sorry.
So, did I handle that perfectly? Well, I mean, no, I'm just saying, I wanted to be clear and, you know, and what my thoughts were on that deal.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Other questions or comments from the public? Third and final call. We'll declare the public hearing portion of this agenda item to be closed, and it's time for council to ask any questions or make comments. Anybody? Of course, Katrina.
So with the year delay there,
Yes.
is there a calculation on what we estimate we will lose during that year?
It's a great
'Cause
question.
just because it's not easy doesn't mean it doesn't make sense.
Good question. Yeah. So I would say that assuming that every year is going to be the same is not right because you're going to keep growing at a higher rate. So thankfully, at least the first year is probably if you continue on an upward trajectory, it's your lowest growth year. So I would say it's probably less than 10%. We're looking at 10 years of that. But we have to, by law, we have to, not charge previously platted properties in terms of, go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Just speaking with Alex, so during that 1 year, the city's existing roadway assessment under rough proportionality would continue. So it's not a total, there'll be a fill-in. Your current existing system will.
Does that go away when this gets adopted?
Yes, this
Okay.
would supersede that, so.
I have questions, but,
Okay,
Go ahead.
Brian.
so if on the 12-month deal, if there's a development that comes in and they're halfway through the development and the 12-month hits, then any plat or permit that they pull after that, they would be subject to the fee that,
So the reality is because it's a fee, it doesn't have that grandfathering kind of clause applied to this from the law. And so it doesn't matter when you platted, even if you platted 5 years ago, any building permit that comes in is going to be subject to this after that 1 year period.
okay. And then that $39.97 is max per permit, right?
Yeah,
Per plat.
Yeah, per vehicle mile, but yeah.
Yeah. And then, you had a chart, I don't know, it's probably about 5 pages back.
This
That one right there, yeah.
Yep.
What's the 10392 on the single family home? That confused me.
That would be the rate per lot if, for a building permit that would be due. So if it was, I'll just math it out of it. For every 100 lots, it's a little over $1 million in terms of impact fee.
Okay.
Yeah.
For the developer coming in.
Correct. Then they pay that at building permit issuance.
And that can be negotiated the exact same as what our current ordinance is on proportionality on the roadway, correct?
Correct, yeah. So in theory, if there is for some reason, additional impacts, let's say they have a street, next to their site, you can still require things in the code or otherwise that would be up to or exceeding that as long as it's not exceeding proportionality.
But also if it's an area that we want to stimulate economic growth and that developer comes in, there's negotiation between whether we assess these fees to them or not, or that particular development.
Yeah, you'd have to work through, you cannot waive the fees, but you can work through like development agreements or Chapter 380 agreements, just like you would.
Okay. I wondered.
In
Council
addition, there's impact fee. They can receive credits for going above and beyond what would be proportional to another area to be serviced, development to be, they can get credits. And
Okay.
that's
Yep.
all in your ordinance.
Yeah, so I'm confused and then the last thing, if you can go down but you can't go up, then why are we not starting at the higher number?
Next question.
And not, why are we starting at 50%? That didn't make it, and then can you do this, so if we get 2 years into this, can we bring you back, do it again, and then raise it up? Is that how that works?
It's 3 years is the
We
minimum.
have to,
Yeah,
whatever
that's a
fee we
new,
set, 3 years, and then.
and then you can increase that time if you'd
Okay,
like.
so
Yeah,
we
that-
can't do it within a 1 year or 2 year period.
Correct. Yeah, that's a new provision from the new law from last fall. So that's a new thing that started in September.
Yeah, that's really my only concern is why are we not starting at a higher number? And then if we have a project that we want to consider, that
Negotiate.
to stimulate economic growth, negotiate the number down for that particular project.
It's a good question, yeah, and I think we talked about that a good bit with the group, with the committee, and where we kind of landed is we wanted to be balanced in the approach in the sense of, people when they come look at prospective properties are going to check what all the fees are, right? So if you go with the maximum here, you're going to be, double to triple some of your competitors when they see the front door, and then that can cause sticker shock, I'll be honest on that. And so if they don't know that they can then negotiate that down, or don't believe that they can, that was kind of the reasoning there of, hey, and this is how I've done it in a lot of dozen other communities, is it's helpful to look and see, hey, let's strike a balance, start somewhere and kind of go from there. And then, yeah, in 3 years you can increase if you feel like you need to. But yeah, that's the short answer.
How is this in comparison to the proportionality for a particular development that maybe has to do 2 roadways? I mean, like at the fee that we're at, is it significantly more money, like at the maximum fee, is it significantly more dollars that we would be receiving with this compared to the proportionality? Like, how does that work?
It's a good question. So usually the way I like to answer this is, it definitely depends. Smaller developments oftentimes don't trigger hardly any improvements. So a lot of times those are actually helping contribute towards the system when they may not have been at all previously. For the larger ones, it just depends on how much infrastructure is bordering their site. So let's just say you had a property that was along Colin McKinney and then like the unnamed collector, for example, and that's 2 legs. They may be in a position where there's so much to build on their boundary that it's actually more than their proportionality. And so then this, would technically could be less. There's other cases where this is going to be more. It really does vary just based on what infrastructure is needed next to the site. And that's kind of the beauty of this program, is it's trying to even that out across the whole city and make sure everyone's getting a fair shake and having kind of an equitable approach where each person's paying in at a comparable amount, but it's enough to help fund infrastructure improvements. And like I said earlier, at most you can recover, if you were at 100%, you're really actually only covering about 2/3 of your needs. At this level, you're about 1/3 of your total need of that 134 million.
So that's my question, is if we're receiving these fees and this development's coming in and there's 2 roads that need to be redone, then we're using these fees for those particular 2 roads, correct?
You can't, they actually have the choice, the developer could build it instead and get credits, as we talked about a minute ago, instead of paying.
But let's
the
say
fee.
they don't. We can use the fees for the roads that you identified in the program, but we wouldn't be using the fees for that if the developer was building a development where the 2 roads the 2 legs that they had needed to be improved.
Right. It would only be for the things that are contemplated on here. So if they build
Yeah.
internal roads to the site, that doesn't count unless it's a.
So it goes back again to if we're charging 50% and we're only getting the 2 roads that are right there, we're not utilizing extra dollars to be able to go towards what we're talking about here, unless it was a development that really didn't have any off-site road improvement needs. Then we could use that fee for what you've put in here. But for our roads, really everybody who builds a development around where we're at is needing to improve roads. I mean,
Yeah,
we're not-
so-
nobody's building on nice roads here in Van Alstyne right now.
Yeah, so a couple different ways. I know we talked a minute ago about what happens to the old ordinance. So that is something separate and independent from impact fees, but some communities still have policies like that you have to improve your boundary streets, and they also have this impact fee. And what can happen is if those boundary streets are needed to be improved and you have another ordinance requiring that, they may still be able to do that, but the fees they would basically get as credits towards that to build it. So my point would be is this is really establishing a base, like a minimum for everyone to pay in, is what the impact fee represents, but you could still have other policies to ask for folks to build and dedicate next to their site.
Have we talked about that?
Mayor and Council,
No,
let me
is that a
sort
part
of
of it?
interject with
You're good.
a little bit of explanation also is, under rough proportionality, it doesn't require mathematical precision, just that you sort of get in this rough proportional area. The impact fees is a mathematical, it's a much more sophisticated model that tries to capture your sort of growth needs across your entire community and across time. So this model is sort of much more precise and much more sophisticated and trying to really hone in on capturing what it's going to take to help the city in the build out for future, with the city's individualized growth projections and everything like that. So this is a mathematical model. It's a higher, more sophisticated field than the rough proportionality. Definitely, from a legal viewpoint, would recommend moving forward with the impact fees because of your city's particular growth patterns. I mean,
No, and I understand that, and I think it's definitely a better system than proportionality, because that could be I don't know,
Very
it's not black or white, and so I get that. I'm just still trying to understand why we were recommended on the 50% rather than a higher fee number for developers to come in and put more money into the system. So that's just my,
I'll say that's a council policy model, however,
No, I get that.
having seen these across various different communities in this particular growth curve, similar to what you're doing, the 50% is fairly typical. I mean, Prosper is another one that definitely seen, is at a different place in the growth curve than you guys, but the 50% is fairly typical. We quite frequently. And a lot of it is just sort of, you probably don't want to be the highest or the lowest. If you're the highest, you may not get, development that's needed to cover some of the infrastructure. If you're the lowest, you may get overdeveloped very quickly. And so sort of trying to be in that moderate middle is, I think, where a lot of planners would probably recommend that makes sense from a policy standpoint.
Thanks. Katrina?
I just wanted to make sure I understood this. So it's 50% across the board, all of them. So if we went up to the max, we're already pretty high for retail strip center, which we need tax-paying businesses. So we would be extremely higher than everyone else. So it would likely turn some people
Yeah, I
away
do
for
see that,
industry and retail.
Yeah, we were trying to strike a balance, and that's kind of the discussion we had with the committee was, there's no perfect place to start. This is y'all's purview. Y'all can decide to go with 100. I've had communities that have gone, 65, 7,500 starting out. And then, when it comes time to collect, then that's where a lot of pushback starts coming in and like, hey, you're charging more than your neighbor. And so that's just something you can deal with at that time. But that's kind of, it's what the city attorney said. We tried to play that balance and come up with a good starting number that is competitive, but also getting a good amount of the needs met without going far above and beyond anybody else around you. That was the general thought here.
But you have to use that same 50% for single-family apartments or the retail.
You could, but Anna
Like,
did it where
it
they,
has to be the same no matter what.
doesn't
right?
have to be the same, no. Anna varied it based on the land use, so you can change it based on the land use types. But that was kind of going back to what I said earlier. It's easier to start simple and then kind of change from there, but that's just that's my personal recommendation from having done these around the state, so. But it's totally within your purview to move those up or down or change them however y'all would like, so.
Other questions or comments?
Or I kind of agree with.
or identifying, like what Katrina said, have a need to attract developers. Not kind of having 10 different pricings, but like you said up here, like if we're looking at retail or industrial or something like that, to where we start that at a lower, and we're not short of single-family home or apartment people coming in to try to develop
Yeah.
the city.
So we did talk about splitting it up by kind of categories land uses with the committee. We ended up just landing at a flat 50%, but it's not atypical to have a residential and a non-residential percentage. We've done that as well before. So that's something that they all want to talk about, maybe doing differently on the dais.
What was the numbers that y'all came up in the committee on the residential and non-residential?
It was this 50 across the board is what they had.
I'm saying when you talked about it though,
Oh, it did-
about
the-
splitting it.
Oh, I mentioned it as an option, but it didn't really gain legs or
Oh,
get
okay.
much discussion. So, but yeah, just doing, quick math on the dais. If you wanted to go higher on single family, but still be in the range, it's probably somewhere around 70% to match the highest from Salina on single family and multifamily. It's just, that's a background number for you.
And then stay at the 50 on
The non-residential.
the non-residential.
Yeah. And this is 5 out of 60 land uses, but these are representative types of kind of typical developments.
I mean, if you have a big enough development and you're coming in, and what we've done from a track record standpoint recently is developers are communicating with Lane and the city before we get going. Like, these are things that will be talked about. And if it's a big enough development that is very attractive to the city, then that obviously is something that can be talked through. And like you said, we can go down, but we can't go up.
Mm-hmm.
That's just, I kind of like what you just said there as kind of more of a starting base as residential 70 and 50 on non-residential. That's just my opinion.
Questions or comments?
Sense to me too. Numbers kind of show it.
And we're not short of
We're low on some.
residential developers wanting to
They always
build in
want-
our city.
They always want some kind of lately.
Define a percentage or a flat fee number?
Well, if we say 70, can you come up with a number?
Yeah, we can,
You can do the math.
yeah, it would be 70% of the 3997. So,
There you go.
Yeah. And then 50% of the 39, and then it would just be based on residential and non-residential.
Does it need to go back to the committee for like review or?
They made the recommendation to y'all, so y'all get to do, you can accept theirs or amend theirs however you'd like here tonight. Yeah. We do have to make an action within 30 days of the public hearing. I think I had that on the last slide. That's a state law as well, that you have to make a quick decision after you close the public hearing.
Are we making an action tonight?
Yeah, there's an ordinance on the, also as part of this item
Yeah.
before y'all, so.
Well, I'll make,
Before you, is there any reason we can't pick just a flat number? It looks like Salina did, for single family at least, that's probably not an exact percentage. You just said 14K.
Yeah, their top number was 3043, but they had, different trip links, things like that. So I don't know exactly how that shook out because the trip links and trip is different there.
Understood.
But yeah, you could go with a flat number for single family and a flat number for multifamily, or you could just go with a percentage of the max and math it out that way. Yep.
Council, if I'm understanding correctly, if we're looking, just to make sure that we have the ordinance correct, if the proposal is to go to 70 on residential roadway, if we look at page 4 of 11 of the actual ordinance, which is section 44222, the table in 2, so the maximum would still stay at the 3997 because that comes from the report. If my math is right, 70%, the residential roadway recovery would be 2797.90, and then your non-residential would stay at the 50, which would be the 1998.50. So all we'd be doing is changing table 2, the residential roadway recovery to 2797.90 would be a 70% of.
yeah, 70% would be, in this particular scenario, $14,549 for math purposes.
I'm not good at it. I'll just take your number.
So, but yes, it is that number that you just said there, but adding it into this calculation up here, that's what it would be.
Okay.
So it would roughly be in par with Salina.
Pretty close, yeah. And they adopted last August, so there you go.
Yeah.
I think you were about to make a motion and I interrupted.
Yeah, I will make a motion. I will, for new impact fees, percentages of 70% on residential and 50% on non-residential, starting 12 months from today's date, which would be April, 14th of 2027.
And that is, yes, that's actually in the ordinance under footnote 2. The collections for roadway shall not begin until 1 year after the adoption, beginning April 14th, 2027.
That.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Trustee has seconded the motion. Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Anyone abstaining? That motion carries unanimously, 5 votes to 0. Thank you for the discussion.
Appreciate
Thank
you.
you,
Thank
Jake,
y'all.
for all the data and work. Thank you to the committee for all the time y'all have put in as well. Very much appreciate that. That concludes item 5 on our agenda. Item 6, presentations. Annabus Engineering to provide an update to City Council on the wastewater treatment plant upgrades.
Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Alex,
Do we have
you
the slides up there? Perfect. Thank you. Good evening. We're going to try and keep this pretty short and sweet. The key thing we want to focus on is get y'all up to speed from the last presentation we did back in September 2025. Go through a few updates, where we stand on schedule, and then kind of path forward. There we go. So for the existing wastewater treatment plant, we're looking at 5 packages, trying to prioritize these in order of need to reestablish permit compliance and then improve consistency of operation of the facility. Starting with aeration improvements, which was package number 1, headworks and hydraulics improvements, package number 2, EQ basin actually for package 2, headworks and hydraulics for package 3, that was a typo for mine, apologize. Package 4 for solids handling to reduce our solids dewatering and disposal costs off-site. And then disinfection improvements to, again, help with compliance. So going forward, when we gave the presentation back in fall of 2025, in September, we had put everything together. We looked at engineering costs, equipment procurement, construction, operations, as well as kind of looking at it from a 20-year life cycle basis. However, with regard to the budget you had in your first bond package, we did not have the budget to be able to do all those improvements within the current bond package because there were other needs in the city as well. Paving, drainage, collection system, water lines. So what we tried to look at was our focus was going to be prioritizing the first 2 projects under the initial bond package, and then come back when it came time for the second bond package to do packages 3, 4, and 5. So all total, we were looking at about 4.1 million for the first 2 packages. That was engineering plus construction. In addition, we were also looking at doing the preliminary engineering for packages 3, 4, and 5 to go ahead and do a single submittal package to TCEQ so that we get one plan approval instead of submitting 5 different packages. So we were trying to look at that as a way to save the city money instead of doing a lot of replication.
Oh, sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
What was your?
I do not.
Weren't able to get.
No, sir. What was available after other projects had already been planned and let it out was we had roughly about $5 million to work with in the first bond package to utilize towards the wastewater plant.
I had thought, and I might be, a while ago when we did this, but I had thought that 13 million was 5 deals that we were trying to implement and get done.
It would be great if we were able to utilize that whole budget. I'll be greedy for the moment, looking at the funds. But in reality, there were other CIP projects that actually had been identified, including looking at the collection system, trying to address water line issues. Initially, back several years ago, there was a request to consider development of a brand new treatment plant, and that was pretty expensive. That was well beyond the city's budget. Yeah. So when we were going through the assessment in spring of 2025 into summer of 2025, by the time we put these packages together, there were quite a few other packages already kind of in the queue ahead of it. So what we were trying to look at was, okay, where can we get the best bang for our buck at the treatment plant? And that's where we started with the prioritization of the aeration improvements for compliance and then the package number 2 for the EQ. No, good question.
I'm trying to remember what we had talked about, and I thought that we had line sets, and then
Yes.
the first one was have up here was gonna knock that out, and the second one was, and I don't even know what.
So just for also side reference, plant staff did a really good job getting the existing headwork screen back up and running. They had bought some repair parts and other components, got it back to full operation. Dewatering, they're doing contract dewatering for offsite, so a company comes in about once a month, pulls a lot of the sludge out of the plant, dewaters it, takes it to a landfill. So there were some opportunities where we could temporarily defer packages 3, 4, and 5 to the second bond package, which again allowed for basically stretching your funds further across the city. That was the main focus. So with that being said, though, we're still seeing ongoing issues of sanitary sewer overflows and discharges in the system. Some of the evaluations included identifying that some of those overflows were occurring along the Ballard Interceptor. Now, there's a process to be able to upsize and replace that interceptor, but here's the critical problem. At the treatment plant, the existing headwork structure that we were planning to replace under package number 3, that existing headwork structure, the pipe that comes in is right at grade. It's basically right at the ground surface. You can go to that structure and scrape the dirt with your shoe and see the top of the pipe. Now, what that means is as we work backwards upstream from a hydraulic standpoint is to be able to get better capacity to reduce the potential for sanitary sewer overflows, we would have to drastically increase the diameter of the pipe because we don't have this kind of fall. It's very flat currently. And it's flat, not because of the elevation where it starts in the subdivisions far away from the plant, but because of how high we are compared to the ground surface at the existing plant. Now, one of the things that we talked about internally then was, well, could we do something with our other packages? So package number one has to go forward. That's the aeration. That is critical. It's very important for us to get that moving forward. However, the EQ package, we talked internally, and city staff asked me the question, well, is there anything else we could do in the packages that could work conjunctively with the Ballard Interceptor improvements, but make it work within the budget? So what we proposed was taking the EQ basin package, moving it to package 3, moving the headworks up to package 2, which would allow us to set new headworks at a lower elevation and go from this really flat angle to now a more steep angle to work with, which would allow the city specifically, when considering replacement of the Ballard Interceptor, to do that on a more cost-effective basis. So instead of having to drastically increase the diameter to account for a very flat slope, we can actually right-size the interceptor based on a much better slope that we've got to work with. Now, only challenge with that. So I mentioned the bottom of the slide there is if we're looking at the improvements of packages 1 and 2, it's going to put us over that $5 million budget ceiling that we were establishing. So what we also talked about doing was under package 2, if we move the headworks up to package 2, include the influent lift station there, but we split it up into 2 pieces, a 2A and 2B, if you will. We can complete the design, procure the equipment, because it's going to take some time to get the equipment ordered, get submittals, get it fabricated and delivered on site. During that time, if the city is working forward towards the second bond package, then what we could do is include still packages 3, 4, and 5, like we originally briefly talked about on moving that to bond package number 2, but also package 2B, the construction, the installation of the headworks. And by doing that, we were able to bring down the package 1 plus 2A to $3 million, again, which works within the $5 million budget and essentially frees up money to say, allow the city to move forward with starting design of the Ballard Interceptor to get that moving sooner rather than later.
Didn't you evaluate all of this stuff in the first place, and that's why we approved the bond? Were there surprises or damages, or like, where were the unexpected expenses
With
the bond? Like, I thought, like Ryan said, we approved this because of this, and then you're saying the money was used for something else.
To my knowledge, I believe the bond package accounted for other capital projects besides just the wastewater treatment plant improvements.
That is correct. I think we only had $5 million. Realistically, do all of. Right. We're just trying to understand, because it's been years, I mean, I don't even remember when exactly we approved that. We need kind of a refresher. Yeah.
Oh, okay, what was the first bond? How many million? I still remember in that, trying to get that number that's right there in that entire first bond. I don't remember 5 million being allocated, maybe to the first 2 sections there, but the rest of it was that, and then the second bond was going something else that it's been a year, so. Anyways, go ahead.
Good questions. The key point, what I just wanted to be able to kind of get across to everybody is we're trying to work with your other project needs but make sure that we're getting to compliance and maintain that compliance as soon as we can. That's the key takeaway. From a scope comparison standpoint, the equalization basin, so one of the things we talked with city staff about internally was if you can get all the wastewater, even in a storm event, to the treatment plant, but if it's more than the treatment plant can hold, that's the benefit of the flow equalization, the EQ basin. Allows you to store basically peak flow storage.
Yeah.
However, if you're still getting sanitary sewer overflows in the collection system, it's not getting to the plant. So we need to tackle that first. And that's what we were seeing with storm after storm. We were still getting those discharges. So that's where we said, okay, how do we, again, take what we need to do in the collection system, what we know we need to do at the wastewater plant, and try to find kind of a happy medium to keep this going forward. And this is kind of where we stand. I'm sorry, I can go back. So original prioritization, the way we were looking at what we presented last fall, package 1 and 2, we were looking at about 4.1 million, the balance about 8.7 million that would be anticipated to be in the future bond package. Right now, with us modifying it to pick up package 1 and 2A, that puts us at about 3 million there. That does increase the amount on the back end for the second bond package, but it does free up more budget in the first bond package to address items like, say, moving forward with the design of the Ballard Interceptor, which I believe is an item that's intended to be brought up in the near future for y'all. Schedule overall update. So preliminary design has been completed for all 5 packages. We're in the process of completing final design for package number 1. That's including structural and electrical components for construction. We did do a procurement already for the equipment package. Unfortunately, did not receive any proposals. Basically, the response from everybody was how busy they are, and a lot of people missed the bid due date. And I'm seeing this across the state right now. So it's unfortunate, but not surprising. However, you have met the procurement requirements. You've done the advertisement, all the proper procurement. So we're going back to the manufacturers that we had budget proposals for a year ago and essentially re-soliciting firm proposals from all of them because we've already met the procurement requirements. And our goal, ideally, is to come back at the May council meeting with a recommendation of award for that equipment. And then subsequently, we would roll right into advertising for the construction installation package for package number 1. And then each of the remaining packages would start to kind of fall like dominoes, kind of step by step by step going forward. So
Has anything been done to the wastewater treatment plant beside the screen up to this point?
screening improvements, we're adding coagulant in the clarifiers to improve settling in the clarifiers. We've got the contract dewatering. The UV system has spare parts that have been replaced on it, so it's actually operating really well. The only thing where we're out of compliance still at this time at the plant is the ammonia limit, and that's why we've got to get the additional aeration out there.
Great. Thanks,
That's all I've
Mr.
got.
Berryhill. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So I guess my question would be, splitting up the financing this way, does it delay 2B construction completion date by dividing the financing in this way?
It does delay it, but only by a couple of months.
Okay.
But that ultimately depends on when you would move forward on that second bond package.
Yeah.
The equipment procurement, we have adequate funds under the first bond package, so we can procure the equipment for package 2A, for the equipment side of package 2. But we cannot go start procurement, advertising for construction until we've got the funds ready for construction.
Okay, other questions or comments? No action required on this item, correct? This
No,
is
sir.
information only?
Just information only.
Yes. All right, thanks, Mr. Berryhill. We
Thanks, sir.
appreciate you coming up and all the work you've put into this.
Thank you, sir.
It is obviously critical on the infusion side especially. Item B, staff to provide an update to City Council on current and upcoming capital improvement projects for public infrastructure, including water, sewer, storm, and streets. Ms. Cisco, welcome back.
Hello. My presentation tonight will kind of outline what we have used that bond package for and then what's to come also. This outlines everything that we're funding with the current bond package. So as you're aware, the CIP are major long-term investments in city infrastructure and facilities. These projects can include construction, replacement, or significant upgrades to other assets such as streets, water, sewer, drainage, parks, and other public buildings. The last presentation that I gave to you guys, I believe also was in September. We had 14 projects allocated, and this time we're presenting 17. There have been some updates with other projects that have become priority for the city. So projects that we've completed so far is the Panther Trail offsite and oversize, the downtown streets project, water and sewer, $1 million was allocated from the bond for water and sewer, and we have completed everything in downtown streets for water and wastewater. The South Waco wastewater line was included, and that has been completed. And SCADA installations on 3 lift stations and the new elevated. Previous projects were almost $1 million, and then the current projects that I've just presented add up to about $3 million of that bond package.
Go back one slide. Panther Trail offsite and oversize, can you?
Panther Trail was a development that is completed, has been accepted by the city. It's the northeast side of town off of Old Highway 6.
Thank you, got it.
Yes. Projects currently in design, East Jefferson Water and Sewer. We have design basically at 100%. They are responding to a couple of last minor comments. We will only be funding the design portion of this project. We've postponed the construction of the water and sewer on Jefferson at the moment to make other projects priority. The Hurricane Creek Interceptor was also included in this bond. The wastewater treatment plant upgrades for phase 1, the new total you see here. And then the Ballard Interceptor. So you can see the map on the bottom of the screen showing the Ballard Interceptor. We're proposing to do the Ballard Interceptor in 2 different phases. For this bond year, we have included the design for phase 1, which goes from the wastewater treatment plant on the bottom right to Ballard, and then includes the crossing at the railroad tracks, which is a choke point in our downstream from 75 lift station. Everything that's dashed will be part of phase 2. It'll go from Ballard Road back to Newport. Sorry, the projects currently in design are about $8 million. And then these are a couple of upcoming projects that haven't gotten on the board yet. Pipeline crossing at US 75. This is south of town. Generators for 3 of our public works facilities. And then the elevated storage 1 rehabilitation. We did have the water leak repair, and we are projected to paint the old water tower hopefully by October. And this is to bring the elevated into compliance with TCEQ. Projects in construction, Blossing Game, reconstruction, part of the water sewer upgrades was included in the bond. The South Grayson CCN acquisition, that one has been released for construction, so we should start seeing movement on that one very soon. And then our ground storage tanks at Site 6 are being rehabbed at the moment. So that brings our total to the 13.8 of everything that's been allocated for this current round of bond funding.
Questions for Tristan on the capital improvement plan?
No?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't have any questions on this. A roadway plan, might you be able to present an update to that in the near future?
On our downtown streets.
And Blasting Game.
So downtown streets, I don't know if you all have seen, but we're making really great progress. Marshall Street and Main Street, half of Main Street, the parking spaces have been poured. The main roadways have been formed. We should expect paving within the next week there. Blossing Game, we are going to mobilize on Monday, so.
Might you have a projected completion date on Blasting Game?
I think Blossing Game's full completion is 8 months.
Okay. That would be excellent to get that done on or about the time the fire station and police station open up.
Yes.
Thank
We
you,
will
Tr-
be starting on the east side, so hopefully we'll get access much sooner than 8 months, but
Okay. Thanks, Tristan.
thank you.
Item 6C, finally. Candy's been so patient. 2026 Sounds of Summer Music Event. Ms. Hessel. Now that you're all educated on sewer treatment.
I'm telling you, I learned something today. So thank you, Mayor, Council, City Manager, Assistant City Manager. We are gearing up again for the fun part of our event season. And it is long overdue. I've gotten many phone calls, many texts, many emails about who is playing for our concert series this year. Before I present, I did want to make you all aware that this is the first year, well, first and foremost, this is our 5th year to do this. And in 5 years, this is the very first year that the city has not had to fund any of the events, including Sounds of Summer. So without our sponsors, we couldn't make this happen, what we've done. So there was no city dollars spent on this concert series this year. Every bit of it was completely funded from sponsors. With that, I would like to give a little bit of recognition to those sponsors. We have 2, what I'm gonna call the OGs that started this with us 5 years ago, and that's Airview AC. Monica and Sergio Perez have been our presenting sponsors, the owners of Airview AC, every year for the past 5 years. And then we have Bill Benton with Benton Real Estate. Benton Litchell Real Estate has been one of our supporting sponsors every single year for 5 years. So I appreciate that. In addition, we're always looking for new sponsors, and we have a new sponsor this year who, Centurion Homes, Sean Terry, has done great at helping us accomplish our goal of funding this completely without city dollars. Kirby Smith Machinery, a new business is going to be opening up here real soon. Waste Connections, Masco Plumbing, Sandra Vasquez. If y'all are familiar with this company, they're new, and they dove in to be a Sounds of Summer sponsor. HEB, we may not have a grocery store here yet, but we have one right down the road, and they're one of our sponsors this year. And then a new construction company, Onyx Construction, with Jeff and Tessie Stevens. So I'm real proud to have them. We have some smaller community sponsors this year, Zimmer Kubota, Card My Yard Anna, Texas Bank, and ACS Construction. So really recognition is needed for these companies because they have taken out of their business to provide free entertainment with this lineup that we have this year for our community. So if you have services or needs, I'll be happy to share their information with anyone that's requesting. A little bit about the series this year is it's hard to do this. Not a lot of people understand the work that goes into scheduling these bands that come in. So Overdrive Entertainment and Cadence Studios do a lot of work behind the scenes of this. It seems easy to come and put out a video and let you guys see what we're going to have and who we're going to have. But these guys, Overdrive Entertainment, Tip and Fuzzy, and David with Cadence Studios, they put a lot of work and effort into helping us make this such a success. So without any further wait, I will let you know. And I do have something as I'm playing the video that I will share with council again this year.
Now we're talking. My generation.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
So I say we got a pretty good lineup, guys. Again, 100% sponsorship paid for these. A little bit about that first band on June 6th is Steven Adler of Guns N' Roses. So he's one of the original songwriters of Appetite of Destruction. So if you're a rock and roll fan of the 80s, then you'll know exactly who this guy is. He was co-founder and writer of iconic hits of Sweet Child of Mine and Welcome to the Jungle. Same high energy band. If you've listened, they were actually in Sherman last year, so we're pretty excited to have them in Van Alstyne this year. Moving forward to July 4th, which will be held, all of these concerts will be at the Central Social District. July 4th, we have the Dustin Perkins Band. They are a local band, authentic Texas country, modern edge, known for their heartfelt songwriting and energetic live shows. They blend traditionally with country roots with Southern rock influences, which make them a crowd favorite across North Texas. Our third concert of the year, August 8th, we've got country music legends, the Bellamy Brothers. So if you're like me and grew up in the 80s and 90s, then your parents were probably sitting on the front porch listening to Let Your Love Flow.
Yeah, rub it in, Otto, that's fine.
Yes, so I'm telling you it's going to be a song fest. Everyone's going to know at least one song from this band. They are legends spanning decades. They are known for timeless hits, again, like Let Your Love Flow, If I Said You Had a Beautiful Body. Their signature blend of country and pop has earned them international acclaim and loyal fan base. And then our final concert in the series this year will be on September 12th, and that is from Texas country star Jack Ingram, known for his authentic storytelling and chart-topping hit Wherever You Are. With a career rooted in Texas music scene, he delivers powerful performances that connect deeply with audiences and showcase his distinctive voice and songwriting. So Jack Ingram, if you're not familiar with his songwriting abilities, he has wrote songs for Miranda Lambert. He is with other artists, wrote many of their songs. I'm a big Miranda Lambert fan myself, so I'm familiar with the Marfa tapes. So that's something interesting when I'm working and developing these bands. I do a lot of research on them. So that is our lineup for this year. I'm excited, can't wait. Just a reminder on our July 4th concert that we will hold at the Central Social District. It's going to be a little bit earlier, so the concert's actually going to start at 6 rather than 7:30. Because we are going to still do our fireworks, and that's going to be at the junior high school following the concert. Any questions or comments? Thank you.
Well done.
Thank you. Thanks really goes a lot to our sponsors.
We appreciate you spending all the time, not only arranging artists, but collecting other people's money to
Yeah.
spend as well, so.
It's
know
not an
that's
easy task,
Especially that.
but we have really good sponsors in this community. We really
We
do.
certainly do. We are blessed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your effort. That brings us to number 7, our consent agenda. I believe we want to remove item J from the consent agenda. Is there any other items to be removed at the request of council? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion for the consent agenda minus item J.
I make a motion to approve.
Got a motion from Dusty. Is there a second?
Second.
I think that was Ryan. He's pointing at Katrina. Katrina has seconded the motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed, abstaining? That motion carries 5 votes to 0. Item J on our consent agenda is no longer on the consent agenda. Thanks.
You're welcome, Alex.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Mayor,
let me read this one real quick since we pulled it. Approve a resolution authorizing the city manager to negotiate with the city of Howell, Texas, Grayson County, and applicable developers. Unless you're going to pull this off. No, I should keep going. We're still considering this tonight?
Yes, sir.
Okay, regarding cost sharing for interim road improvements to Blythe Road, providing that the city's contribution shall be no more than 25% of the total cost of said improvements, with a not-to-exceed amount of $52,000, and providing for related matters. Alex?
Thank you very much, Mayor. Before I make a few comments, I might, if I may, To help Ms. Kofer out, can we get the vote in the second on the rest of the remainder of the consent agenda?
Katrina? We did vote, it was unanimous. Katrina seconded the motion.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, you're welcome. Thank you very much. And as you stated, this is a resolution to authorize the city manager to negotiate with the city of Howe, Grayson County, as well as applicable developers related to cost sharing and improvements for Blythe Road. That's between US 75 and Highway 5. I think it probably goes without saying that that segment of Blythe Road is in disrepair with potholes sloughing off. If I'm not using the incorrect terminology, there's portions of the road that have been zippered off for the sake of using fun new zippers by our friends to the north. And so with all that, it's a patchwork of, largely unpassable roadway. We have, the city staff has had an opportunity to visit with the city management of the city of Howe. Grayson County Precinct Commissioner is in attendance, and he may want to make some comments as well. And also the city of Howe and the city of Van Alstyne are working with developers that have discussed ultimate improvements to Blythe Road. That's ultimately proposed to be a 6-lane divided concrete roadway. But what we're talking about this evening is an opportunity in the interim to try to embrace an opportunity to partner with the aforementioned entities to potentially contribute up to 25% of costs related to the improvement of that, re-asphalting it, overlaying it, and so forth and so on. So the resolution tonight is no action. It's not a contract. It's essentially city staff requesting that the council give the city manager permission to enter into meaningful discussions with those other 4 entities to discuss potential contributions to interim road improvements for asphalt for Blythe Road. If in fact we are able to enter into an agreement, a contract would come back before the city council. And we have included not to exceed amounts and percentages in that as to kind of limit our ability to open our checkbook. As we've discussed in previous items, we have obviously a lot of needs in and around the city, but this is certainly something that does need attention as well.
Thank you, Alex. As I understand it, the 4th partner in this would be a developer on the Howe side of the road who is willing to, at some point in the future, put in 2 lanes of concrete, but in the interim, going to help with the paving of Blythe in its current geography, where it currently sits, and improve that road. As we've discussed, there's a developer on the Van Alstyne side that at some point in the future might improve it as well. So this is not by any means a final solution. It's an interim until the developers can get enough houses on the ground and fund what will become 4 lanes and perhaps eventually 6 lanes of concrete between 5 and 75. Thank you, sir.
Will that be taken, like, one of the developers, he said that would be his first step once he got approval, was to do hopefully concrete, but, so you'll be working with that developer also?
Yeah, correct. So it's our understanding from the city of Howe that their development partner, the developer on their side, the north side of Blythe, has committed funds. I mean, there's an obligation to do future concrete, but that developer has stated that they'd be willing to do some interim contribution. But on the Van Alstyne side, you're correct. We did have the joint work session with the Planning and Zoning Commission. We talked about that 236-acre development, and we will come back to the council at some point in the near future to talk about that development. They're proposing special financing district and MMD. And so we haven't gotten to the point of having all the details ironed out on that, but integral to that discussion is their obligation to build from Old Highway 6 to 75, 2 lanes of concrete. So we continue to keep that as part of our discussion with that developer. We just don't know if that happens, in 2 years or 5 years or whatever the time frame is, but that is certainly something we're going to ensure as part of that proposal.
Everybody knows that needs to be done. I just wanted to hear the actual plan.
Any idea what the time frame on the construction completion would be?
For Blythe Road?
Yeah.
Well, the first thing would be the resolution so that we could sit down with, but I
Assuming
mean.
success here from us and Hal and.
Correct.
And I'm sure Commissioner Moore's got some hurdles to solve, but we have confidence he'll do that.
I may let him elaborate on the possibility. I wouldn't know what the time frame is, because while the city of Van Alstyne may be willing through resolution to
Right.
enable us to negotiate, I can't speak for the other parties. I'm not sure how's in position to contribute 25%.
Right.
So I don't know. Hopefully
Okay.
soon, because it's in need of obvious attention.
Absolutely. Thank you. All right. Commissioner Morrow, anything you want to add? You're not obligated, but I appreciate you being here if you want to mention anything.
All good. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, council. As Alex eloquently put it, you know, Blythe is in major need of repair. I could get into the particulars and details of that situation, that road, what lays into it, but I'll save y'all the 30-minute synopsis on that. But yes, as mentioned, looks like we do have a good partnership here to take care of a needed portion of road that services a lot of the residents here in Van Alstyne and our surrounding area. We are at the precinct level, we are full with our road building abilities, but I can probably guarantee if we get the funding on this one, we'll find a way to get it done this year, because I think I don't go about ever once a week, or at least once every 2 weeks, I get phone calls or emails. When's Blythe Road gonna get fixed? And I have to tell them the story, and I know Hal gets those phone calls every single week, so it's just gonna make it better for everybody here in the greater Van Alstyne area. So, but yeah, we look to, if this gets funded correctly, we do look at putting it on to this year to get it taken care of. Won't be before school's out. Of course, we still got to get the numbers hashed out. Probably gonna be, you know, at least May before that happens, but we'll try to get it done during the summertime.
Thank you, sir. Any other questions from council? Would entertain a motion regarding item J.
Make a motion to approve.
Dusty has moved to approve the resolution. Is there a second? Katrina has seconded that motion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed or abstaining? That motion carries 5 votes to 0. Item 8, individual consideration items. Adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to approve a proposal in the amount of $90,456 with Burgess and Nyepel, Inc. for smoke testing services, engineering evaluation, data analysis, and reporting of approximately 77,265 linear feet of wastewater lines and 523 manholes. Ms. Cisco, welcome back.
Hello. Okay, so my presentation tonight is on a very serious issue that we are facing here in Van Alstyne at the moment. I&I inflow and infiltration into our sewer system during rain events. I&I, most people are like, what is that? So basically I&I is any unwanted water that enters our sanitary sewer system. It can be through inflow, which enters directly and quickly. These can be from roof drains or downspouts that were connected to sewer lines, French drain systems that are added in after and then connected to sewer, storm drains improperly tied into the sewer, and open, broken, or improperly sealed manholes and cleanouts. Infiltration, this is where groundwater will seep in slowly through defects. That includes cracked or broken pipes, leaky pipe joints, deteriorating manholes, or poor connections and services. So bear with me over the next few slides. I'm going to show you some of the things we've encountered over the past few months while my team has been digging in, trying to figure out where our major sources are coming from. So we'll just go from left to right. We're finding a lot of manholes with the rings that are offset. Maybe they weren't necessarily installed properly, wiped properly. Every layer you see is a ring that has moved away from the manhole itself, and water, and you can see dirt and everything else is getting washed into the manhole. We have a lot of brick manholes. They were put in a very long time ago. We have manholes that have been damaged by heavy equipment in roadways, beside roadways, in pastures. So we're trying to locate all of those. The far right is a manhole where you can see roots have grown in. So you can imagine if roots are getting in, water is also getting in. We found manholes where the lids were not on them. Manholes buried in asphalt. Manholes that have been lined, you can see the lining is already cracked, and that's from water getting in on a ring and causing damage to the liner. We have manholes in paving where the rings are offset as well. And then even better, brick manholes with grease problems. Top left is we're finding a lot of service lines that were not connected, so water's getting in there. The next one is a manhole where you can see the seal has busted out, where water's getting in at a joint. And then broken cleanouts. And the bottom is a service line that was just shoved into a bigger service line and never properly connected. Which one?
Picture number 2.
Yes.
That is a sewer line coming into a manhole. And that's rainwater coming into the manhole from other sources of I&I upstream of this manhole that's already in bad shape. So problems with I&I in our system is it can overload our system. Currently, as it sits, our system can handle our day-to-day sewage requirements, our sewage flows. Day-to-day, we don't have issues. You know, the normal backup here and there. Service lines, services, sewer backups at residences, we handle those on the day-to-day, which could be issues with their cleanouts, their service lines not properly connecting. But day-to-day, our sewer system can handle what we have on it at the moment. The problem is when it rains. It creates sanitary sewer overflows, increases our treatment costs, and also accelerates the wear and tear on our infrastructure. So the solutions are, we need to identify the places where water is getting in. We need to make those repairs and schedule replacements through CIP or however else we can get these replacements. So the next are just a few examples of what my team have done. So the first one, the manhole was offset. They pulled apart all the rings, put them back nicely, wiped them, and then set the manhole to grade. These are repairs that we can do in-house where we don't have to contract out. We replaced a manhole that had a broken ring. We replaced this other busted manhole as well, the ring and cone. We raised a manhole that was completely buried and collecting water from the pasture next to it. And then these cleanouts, the guys are keeping cleanout lids on their trucks, and when they see a broken cleanout, they're putting the cleanout on it. It's pretty easy fix that makes a pretty big impact. And then we're repairing service lines when we come across them. So our proposed strategy now is to smoke test, and I have a map.
Thank you.
So our strategy is to smoke test as much of the old stuff as we can. It's about 77,000 linear feet of pipe and 523 manholes. It will identify defects, not only the ones that we're finding above ground, but also the ones below ground that we can't see and can't easily find. The data that we'll collect, leak locations, the leak type, where it's at, if it's at a joint, if it's a cracked pipe. They'll give us all that information. They will include a photo, the estimated leak rate, and the estimated construction cost to repair. In addition, they're going to GPS all of our manholes that they smoke test and get the depth of all of the manholes. We recently found out that our GIS system has no elevation data, so this will help get that into our mapping system. They'll also map out the lines the best they can, and then give us that data so we can put it in our GIS system to update that information. They're going to give recommendations for rehabilitation work, and then they'll rank it however we choose, whether we want it by leak rate or whether we want it to say, okay, we have $1 million, what can we get with $1 million? So they'll rank it however we see fit. So in identification, we can begin working on the listed items causing the biggest issues, identify CIP projects for line replacement. We'll also increase productivity because while we're going out and looking at stuff every day, we have limited number of staff. And while we're making repairs, we can't be inspecting. So now we'll have a list to actually work off of. These are just a few other additional updates that I wanted to give to you guys. We are working on the SSO situation. Our 75 lift station pumps are oversized, so we're having issues downstream. So we're going to be replacing 2 of those pumps with smaller pumps so we can pump more continuous and hopefully curb or eliminate the overflows at the 75 lift station. We have identified 8 pretty bad manholes that are needing replaced. We're working on getting those replaced now. And then we're also updating a sewer model. We'll be able to evaluate solutions before committing funding and also assess current capacities for proposed developments and growth projections. With that, we recommend approval of the smoke testing.
Thank you, Tristan. Questions for Ms. Cisco?
I have a quick question. How would the public be notified that these smoke tests were conducted on this manhole?
So we'll personally hand deliver a letter and also put it out on social media with the map you have in front of you. There's 3 sections, and that's how we're going to do it by section. So we'll notify each section. It'll take about 2 weeks to get through each section, and we'll put it out on social media too. So the smoke is harmless. It just looks scary.
I know, I could just see my neighbors.
Yeah. But this will help us identify if anyone's downspouts connected, if anyone's French drain system's connected, and then also if there's a separated sewer lateral, any other issues that we might find.
Yeah,
A
please.
few years ago, the city did this in Georgetown. All over Facebook with everybody's smoke pictures and what happened to the data from that, and like, do they need to read that? Because they know there are issues and they knew what the issues were, was my understanding. Did we ever get a report for that? Because we definitely paid for that.
We received a report. Biggest issue in flat roof on elementary school. And we've corrected. We have homes. First to go through this process, determine where the big issues.
Save money because
Yeah, and there may be other, it's not the same company, yes, you're correct. We will be getting a lot more information too with this round of smoke testing, with the GPSing of the manholes, the depths, and all of that information too, and there may be other defects that have come on board since that smoke testing too.
Thank you. Other questions or comments? I have one. So, rainy day versus not rainy day, what's the multiplier for how much sewage we get at the treatment plant
An
approximately?
average day, we're about 0.6. Rainy day, we're seeing probably double that. However, some of it is we're having overflows between 75 lift station and the wastewater treatment plant, which is what we're trying to address with the Ballard Interceptor replacement. These pumps hopefully will help because we'll be pushing less volume down the line. So the issues at Newport hopefully will be solved with this pump replacement. And hopefully Ballard too, we won't know until we actually get them in. The sewer model is promising. We have had a mini sewer model ran on this section of line.
Okay, so about a 2-to-1 increase, it doubles when we get rain.
Yes.
Okay.
I will also add that our public works staff has been working diligently to trace these issues and make a lot of repairs. And we have actually seen the water hitting hours later than we used to. So we are making an impact. I'm super proud of our team for that. We just need to fix it.
I would agree. On Newport, I feel it's not as bad as it used to be, so I'm not sure what improvements you guys are making, but they're working for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we need a resolution. Would entertain a motion for a resolution to contract.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Got a motion to approve the,
I'll second.
thank you, to approve the smoke testing contract. And a second from Angelica. Katrina made the motion. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed or abstaining? That motion carries 5 votes to 0. Item 8B, reconsider adopting a resolution authorizing the city manager to enter into an agreement with Van Alstyne Sports Authority for the use of specific city-owned parks, providing a public service to the residents of the city. Ms. Gould.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. You have seen this resolution a couple of times in the last few months. The only change that we have before you tonight is to clarify that VASA will have limited scheduling priority if they need to reschedule games and tournaments, specifically that are affected by weather or unsafe field conditions. So that's the only modification. The VASA board has met and is in favor of the agreement as written. Unfortunately, they weren't able to be here tonight, but I did speak with the president on the phone this afternoon, and they're in support of the agreement as written, and appreciate your time in working through the changes.
Thank you, ma'am. Any questions from council for Jennifer? Would entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Got a
Second.
A motion from Ryan, seconded by Angelica,
Horse
to-
nose charm.
to approve the VASA agreement. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed or abstaining? That motion carries 5 votes to 0.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer, for your efforts in getting through all the details. Item 9, City Manager Report. Mr. Jones.
The report will be short since Kristen gave it for me already.
Yeah.
I have a few items. As I've reported to council in my weekly updates to city council, our new senior center is open for business. If you have not been over there, please pay a visit to it. It's a very nice facility. Our senior center is growing in population daily. They're very happy, so we're getting a good turnout. The CDC has been kind enough to fund some window blinds. I think we have 27 windows in that building. It's going to get very hot in there in the summertime, so they've agreed to fund that. And between the Rizzlin developer, Michael, and his landscaper, Miller Landscaping, they have donated all the exterior landscaping and the installation of that landscaping, which will go in at the conclusion of the parking lot being built. The parking lot was originally scheduled to be completed by this Friday. Clearly, we're not going to make that date, in part due to the fact that what's underneath the ground, we've discovered a water line has to be lowered, a franchise utility, and we had to install a new manhole. It was in there. We have done the manhole ourselves. I don't know if we moved that water line today. So we have a franchise utility yet to move. Once all that is cleared out of the way, they can finish the grading and do the paving. The contractor says it'll take him about a week once he's given that green light that's there. Of course, that's all pending weather. Tristan gave you an update on the Downtown Streets project. I authored a letter last week to TxDOT requesting that we have 2 signalization traffic warrants conducted, one on Jim Jones Road and FM 121, and the second on 3133 and Highway 5. I've given them the statistics for the number of accidents and fatalities realized in both of those intersections. It's now in their hands. I don't have a date as to when that might take place, but we provided them with the formal request to get that done. With that, I'll entertain any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Jones. Questions for the city manager?
Thank you.
I have none. Thank you, sir. Item 10, it's time for mayor and council closing comments. I will start to my right. Mr. Neal.
Candy's no longer here anymore, but just shout out to her. Every year, I mean, 5 years now, this thing is kind of morphed into its own kind of special thing that Van Alstyne has. And so kudos to her, because she mentioned other people that do a lot of work, but she does a lot of work. And so she gets a lot of props for that. And thank you for everybody that came out and just for all the hard work the staff does. I know being an old town that we are, you get to, and every time you take a layer off, you find a new problem, and then you got to take that layer off, and then you got to keep going and going and going. So I know it's hard, and y'all do a fantastic job, so thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dusty?
Thank you all for coming. Thank you, staff, for everything you've done. Tristan, thank you for making sure our sewer flows downhill. We appreciate that.
It's the best direction. This Saturday is going to be a very busy day. If you are inclined to go touch a truck, the WE School at First Methodist is hosting their touch a truck from 10 to 2. Dusty has some more detail on Colin McKinney Day, I think 9 to 3:30. So
Yeah,
out on social media, and go ahead, sir.
Starts in Anna, and we'll be in Van Alstyne by lunchtime. We've got the museum, the First Christian Church, the cemetery. I think it ends at Dowling at 5 or so. So lots of people from out of town will be here.
Fun times.
Yep.
Thank you. And rumor has it there's an election coming up, and early voting starts on Monday, the 20th of May. Katrina?
Don't you have a cemetery
20th of April,
decoration
sorry.
day too?
That's in May. That's Mother's Day. Next month. Mother's Day weekend. Come decorate the cemetery.
That's what I had to add.
All right. Angelica?
Yeah, I just want to say goodbye. Geez, this is the last meeting. It's been a fun 36 months. Very, very excited to have Mr. Williams step up. He's going to be fantastic. And I just want to thank all the staff. You've really educated me on everything that I wanted to know and didn't want to know about the city. So I appreciate that. And then I have all my new friends as well. So thank you, guys.
Thank you for your service. We appreciate it. There being no other, we have executive session. I believe there's no reason to go into executive session. Is there a reason? People, I'm getting nods. We do need to go into executive session. We will do so now. Yes.
You're not done yet, Angelica.
Yeah.
Sorry. Still have to do it.
She was like,
session.
Yeah. In accordance with Texas Local Government Code Chapter 551, Open Meetings Act, the City Council may meet in closed executive session pursuant to applicable laws. 551-071, consultation with attorney, improvements as they relate to the retail development on US 75 and Van Alstyne Parkway, and Section 551-087, deliberation regarding economic development negotiation. Van Alstyne Economic Development Corporation Project Whirlwind. All right, we're going to go into executive session at 8:08. Y'all are welcome to stay out here. We're going to move to the conference room for executive session. Okay, we are out of everybody's here, yes, we're out of executive session at, holy cow, my watch broke. It looks like 8:44. And there is no action required on our executive session items. Therefore, we have concluded everything that's on our agenda, and at 8:45, I will declare the meeting to be adjourned. Thank you all very much.